part of the reason why pace was so slow is, I mean, I really feel like majority of the problem was the hitters. They were taking too long in between at bats. At least from my vantage point, I mean, a pitcher, if you allow the pitchers to work quick, pitchers would work quick. It's the fact that hitters had the unlimited ability to call time and slow the game down to their pace whenever they wanted. And so I feel like that's just what got amplified throughout the whole game, that the hitters kept slowing the game down. The fact that the hitter can only call timeout once in a bat, that's an incredible rule, to have. Now, if, as a pitcher, if I work quick, I can make the hitter completely uncomfortable, and he only has one chance at a timeout. Not to mention that there could be a 9-second delta from when I could actually pitch the ball to holding the ball to when I actually have to pitch. That can really screw up a hitter's timing as well. So that's really those two aspects of the pitch clock, not even a clock. The fact that the hitter only has one timeout and I have a 9-second delta to work with, I feel like those two things alone can really work to my advantage. And, with the pitch count system, I can get those signs so much faster and quicker. It allows me to work quick. And so I feel like I'm going to be able to withstand the pitch clock, the changes within the game, and be able to evolve with it and really use it to my advantage because I really feel like it's going to put the hitter at a disadvantage.
That's Mets pitcher Max Scherzer chatting on the New York Post Baseball podcast with our good friends Joel Sherman and John Heyman. You know the pitch clock and the pitch timer. It's coming. Here are the rules. Different times for when their bases are empty as opposed to when there are runners on. Back here in Studio 42 with Dan O'Dowd and Ron Darling, I'm Robert Flores. A couple of interesting things he said. He said most of this is really because the hitters are taking too long. I think I tend to agree with him a little bit. And also, he had a pretty good idea of what was coming and helped formulate some of these changes because of his role with the Players Union. So now that we know that the pitch timer is coming, Dan and Ron, take it away. So what's coming? What do we need to know?
That was fascinating.
Right.
I hadn't thought about it from that standpoint. So were you a quick worker or were you more of a methodical worker?
I was methodical when I was young because paralysis by analysis. I was trying to make every pitch a perfect pitch. And once I had the confidence that my stuff could get people out, I got quicker and quicker over time, where after a while I became really quick and it would work perfectly now.
So working off of what he just said, one, how hard of an adjustment is it going to be for guys to stay within the 15 seconds? And then how would you use that as a competitive advantage?
Well, first, what did he say? He could do a TED Talk. TED Talks on what did he say, Max, who's such a student of the game? The batter can only call a timeout once in each plate appearances. So if he does it early in the at-bat, that means Max has a window, because the batter has to be in there at 8 seconds. He has a window that as soon as he steps in, he can go to the plate. Or as soon as he steps in, he can wait 6 or 7 seconds and then go.
Because he knows that batter can't call timeout.
I think it's going to be tougher on the batter in my mind, because I think the pitchers are going to be able to quicken up. And the reason I think that is because the hitters have to face 100. And there's so much they have to process. There's so much information now that all that information, that's why they stand out of the box. That's why they look down, why they're trying to get their thoughts together, closing their eyes, taking a deep breath, because they're trying to get all of this together before they step in there to face 100.
Okay, facing 100. We've heard this conversation around speeding pitchers up, that it's going to affect velocity. In your mind, is it going to affect velocity?
Well, I think some pitchers it's going to affect velocity, because they're not going to be able to regroup and then stand on the mound, take their time, and then deliver the pitch. It's really going to hurt the relievers more than the starters, to me. But it'll mitigate some of the velocity that some of the guys have. But they also could condition in a different way, where they have conditioned probably in the last 10, 12 years in a real explosive manner, as opposed to pitchers that pitched 30 years ago used to do a lot of long-distance running to build their conditioning in a different way. They might have to do a combination of both.
So, like my original organization was the Orioles. Ray Miller was a pitching coach. Work hard, throw strikes, your defense gets better.
Change speeds.
Change speeds. So, do you feel like some of the result of speeding things up, we will see more strikes, or we will see better defense because the pitcher's going to be working on a more consistent basis?
You see it in minor leagues. I went to a game, Worcester Red Sox playing in Massachusetts last year. It's the first time I had seen a pitch clock game. I was fascinated by it. From the first pitch to the last pitch, how quick the game moved, how much the ball was in play, how many strikes were, how many defensive plays were made. I mean, the average major league game takes a little over 3 hours. They're playing in 2.5 hours in AAA. That's a big difference. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to trim all the fat. That's what you're trying to do.
That's it.
Trim all the fat out of the game. So what you have is action. I believe there to be more action.
And you could make the argument, Dan, that these changes, they're not new. They're bringing back a style of play that used to be played in the 70s and 80s.
So, okay, now let's go to part 2 of this thing.
All right.
Holding runners. I'm going to walk over there.
Okay.
And now that's changed completely because now you have a pitch clock.
Yes.
So you can't hold the ball.
That's right.
You only get to throw over twice. As soon as you throw over the second time, it's a track meet. So stolen bases exploded this year at the minor league level. So what adjustments now is the pitcher going to have to make, assuming stolen bases are going to now be part of our game?
Well, because you only have 2 disengagements, all right, stepping off the mound or throwing over, I think that really only gives you 1. And the reason I say that is once you've used 1, you really can't use 2 unless you pick the runner off. If you pick the runner off, if you don't pick the runner off, he gets the next base. So what do I do as a pitcher to try to mitigate this rule? I got to be quick to the plate. I mean, that's something you can work on. Slide step, trying to be quick to the plate. Problem is that some pitchers are just uncomfortable being quick to the plate. They feel like they're going to lose some of their stuff. They're going to lose some of the velocity. But I think the pickoff game is going to suffer. Taijuan Walker, who I got to watch the last couple of years, he would use 1 throw that was kind of a B- throw to set up his A+ throw. He can't do that now. And that's going to take away a big part of his game. I think I would have liked to have a couple more throws or at least 1 more throw.
So, Ryan, let me ask you, this seems to me that it's going to really challenge the mental part of a pitcher's comfort level as soon as runners get on base, like the game used to be. Like this game had prolific base stealers. There were teams like the Cardinals and the Royals. All they would do was get on and run. Like, explain to our viewers what mentally that does to a pitcher when all of a sudden you're focused, okay, I got to throw a quality strike, but I know right now with the way the game is played, they're going to run on me too.
Now, remember, the game has kind of changed in the way that the pitcher used to control the running game. The running game is controlled by the bench. The bench gives the signs to the catcher. Catcher tells you where to throw over. If you can only throw over a couple of times, that's really going to take away a lot of the power the bench has had. So your power is getting the ball to the plate, giving your catcher a chance. But I think that in running the running game or mitigating the running game is going to be difficult because once these runners get on now, they're going to challenge you to throw over. If I was a runner, I would get a big lead, one-way lead, which they call it, make sure you can go back easily, and make sure you get 1 throw over. Because once you get 1 throw over, you're on your way.
You know, Robert, I mean, spring training this year is going to be so crucially important for the pitchers and the catchers and this whole sequencing of things. It's going to be a way different spring training. I'm almost glad now it's a longer spring training because of the WBC, because I think there's going to be an acclimation period for all of the starting pitchers and relievers within our game.
Now, we kind of explained that the pitchers are going to have an advantage. The one thing that the pitchers are going to have to be careful about is that they're going to have to be careful about those 5 or 6 outs. I'm a big believer in the course of a game, a starting pitcher has 5 or 6 outs he's got to get if he's going to have a great game. Identifying those outs and making sure that you regroup. A lot of pitchers kind of rush through it, and maybe this pitch clock is going to make them rush through those most critical moments. You're going to have to take your time in those moments.
Well, they're the best players in the world, and it is going to be an adjustment period, but I have confidence that they will definitely find a way to make it work. But it's going to be fascinating to see the new changes in 2023. All right, we're going to step aside here on MLB Tonight. When we come back, Verlander replacing DeGrom, Manaea, Stripling. You can make the argument they're placing Rodon. Departures leading to some intrigue around the league. We'll discuss that when we come back.